Hello, friends. We are hanging out with former big league outfielder Lane Adams, asking him about a billion questions about 2020 summer camp and anything else we come up with. How does that sound? Well, this is Locked On Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello again, and welcome back to Locked On Twins. I'm your host, Brandon Warren, and you can find me on Twitter, though I don't think I would, at Brandon_WARNE. Thanks for making Locked On Twins your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. So if you're watching us on YouTube, thank you very much. Give us a thumbs up, give us a subscribe. And we're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As a reminder, you can be active in the comments. This particular episode is not live, but every time we do a live one, we more than encourage you to leave comments because I can put them up on the screen and roast you if they're bad, or I can answer them if they're good. So makes the show a lot of fun. Please feel free to send those. And if you have questions you want answered just any old time, hit me on Twitter at Brandon_Warren, at Locked On Twins. Hit the DMs. Also, Locked On Twins post-game minutes. Find those in the shorts column on YouTube. Today's episode brought to you by Sleeper. Swing for the fences on Sleeper Picks. And you can win up to 100 times your money. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDON, and you'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions do apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details, but they're currently operational in over 30 states, so run on over there. Check out the Sleeper app and see if you're in one of them. Now, to delay even further, Twins-Rangers Friday night at Target Field, 7:10 p.m. is going to be Dane Dunning and Sonny Gray. We'll talk about that more here a little as the show goes on, but you can catch every pitch of the Twins hometown broadcast with Corey and Danny. Corey having a tremendous call of that Ryan Jeffers two-run homer off Will Smith last night. I highly recommend you check that out, but you can get that on the SiriusXM app. Just search Twins. All that aside, Mr. Lane Adams, how are we doing today?
I'm great, Brandon. How are you doing, man? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you bet. And so this isn't the first time we've done this, although it's the first time we've done it via video. And maybe you remember, maybe you don't, but you were on my Midwest Swing podcast a while back where we talked about all kinds of different things. It's going to be a lot of different meat off the bone this time. So if people haven't listened to that, it still exists in the archive someplace. But I understand you are in charge of something called OK Swings. You're not playing anymore, despite what the Google machine might tell you. What is OK Swings?
OK Swings is my brand that I made for my hitters at my batting cage across my driveway at my house.
That's pretty exciting. So what is that? Is that just kind of are you teaching? Are you instructing? Do you have a business, a big whatever, or is it just kind of small and intimate?
It's a little bit of everything. It's big on, it's kind of social media is kind of blown up. It's got a pretty good Instagram following. I have a lot of clients. I probably see 50 to 55 hitters a week. I probably have a total of 85 hitters.
Wow.
It's a lot of fun. It's kind of small business. It's just me. I don't have any employees or anything. So it's just me. It's just me and my hitters. We do one-on-one work, small groups of 2 and 3, just really kind of dissecting, trying to make hitters better, whether it's mechanical approach, different things of that nature, is trying to help them reach their fullest potential.
Now, I feel like hitting instruction is pretty common. Do you do any other instruction? Because I feel like when we look at value of players nowadays, we always gravitate on the offense because that's so easily quantifiable. But do you do any other instruction, or are you really hitting heavy right now?
Just hitting. Everything else bores me. So just hitting. That's all I really care about, all I enjoy.
So what kind of drills do you do? I'm sure, we both know that certain side of the Twitterverse that likes to mock some of those goofy drills. But do you have anything unique, or is it just kind of a culmination of, everything you've learned over your years in baseball with your own spin on it? How do you do that?
It all just varies individually. I've worked with a lot of hitting people in my career and picked bits and pieces from everybody and try to help. If I have something in the past that maybe didn't work for me but works for another hitter, we'll try that out. Everything's kind of just based on individual. You can't cookie cut everything. Every individual perceives, they have different motor patterns, motor preferences. They perceive things differently. different learning traits. So it all just varies down to the individual. I think the benefit of me kind of sucking as a player is that I went to a lot of different freaking hitting guys. So I have a lot of knowledge on like philosophies and things like that I really feel like I communicate it really well. So, but yeah, everything's tailored to the individual. And if I don't have the answer for them, I try to go out and find the answer, for them. So everything's just wired and tailored to the individual hitters, whatever they may need.
Now, in my experience hitting, and I played D3 for a year, so I'm not any sort of big time hitter or anything, but I felt like there's a very delicate balance between having too much on your plate and too little, where if you're up there thinking, you're not, you're handicapped a bit, or not handicapped, I guess would be the wrong word, but like you're stunted up there. Whereas if you're not thinking at all, that can be problematic too. Do you find that you need to find that balance with every hitter you instruct?
Absolutely. You can have paralysis by analysis. We talk about it all the time. We try to keep all of our maintenance and drill stuff, everything we do mechanically in the cage. Now, we might take a nugget or two with us to the games, but at the end of the day, it's all about competing, being on time, and being confident, ready to hit. No matter what drills you do, what your swing's feeling like that day, if you can't check those 3 boxes, if you can't be on time, see the ball, and swing good pitches, you're not going to be a good hitter. So there's definitely some balance you got to walk. As a hitter when I played, I would want to carry some stuff over a little too much, and it kind of can work against you. So there's definitely that fine line you got to teeter-totter on when you're trying to maintenance your swing and also be ready to hit in a live game.
What do you like or dislike about the modern way baseball is taught, the swing, the patterns? Because I feel like we may be in a pendulum swing. You and I are actually, I think, a fairly similar age. Yeah, you're a couple years younger than me. But I grew up in the Moneyball era where we learned a lot about data, and then we kind of swung too far toward data, and now we're kind of trying to find that happy medium between, the old guys telling you how to play the game and the data how to tell you play the game. Where are we on that pendulum swing, and where do you feel like that kind of trickles down to what you're doing?
I think we're swinging back to more, trying to get back to more quality contact. I think that's where it's going. I think you said earlier, we came up in the data area where high velocity launch, that's kind of where I started at, and it worked until it didn't, and it kind of came too much for me. And then I started finding, when I started getting really good and started making steady progress, it was more kind of an old school, fundamentally based learning. It wasn't so much data and metrics and all this stuff. It was more like getting fine tuned my body, doing certain drills, and really helping me just fine tune my swing. Like I was already I was like 6'3", 220, pretty good athlete. Didn't need to add any power to it. So it was just kind of making sure my bat path is sustainable and at a high level. I think that's kind of where we're heading back towards. Is that it's not so much boom and bust as let's just sell out for slug. Pitching's getting really good. You can't go up there and swing out of your shoes anymore because these guys are good with the velocity at top of the zone and the pitch design to tunnel all their pitches off of that. You got to have some adjustability and have a hit tool. I think the pendulum is definitely swinging back in the hit tool form, and I think it's going to be good because if you can really get the data and the science side connected with the old school mentality, I think you'll see a lot of progress. And some teams are already doing that. I know the Rangers, Dodgers, Rays, a lot of the good teams that are having success are already kind of a little bit ahead of the 8 ball on that one.
So if you ask Google, you're still playing. I know you told me off air you're not, but they insist that you are playing for a team called Quintana Roo in Mexico. That was in 2021. I have to ask you, you played 35 games in Mexico. What was that like? Because, I can say I played college baseball and you played in low level. Well, you didn't do college, did you? No, you were high school. But I can say that I played in high school. You played in high school. We have that unified experience where at least we know what high school baseball is like. But I cannot at all empathize with someone who played in Mexico. I can't figure that out. I can't get my head around that. Can you help me get my head around that?
Brandon, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Now there's I played in Venezuelan winter ball. It's very similar to that. I liked it a lot. After 2020, I was pretty much done. Like, I didn't train. I didn't work out. I got a call from Mexico saying, you want to come play? I was like, yeah, sure, why not? So I went and played for 2 or 3 months. Just got off the couch and played. It was a lot of fun. The culture is all about winning there. Winning's all that matters. It doesn't matter what you do, who you are. If you're not helping the team win, they will send you on your way and find someone who will help to win. I enjoyed it. It's way better, like, especially at my age when I was 31, 30 at the time. I enjoyed that brand of baseball more than I did like AAA type thing. It's more like development and making sure guys. So I appreciated that. It was a lot of fun. I kind of wish I'd kind of prepped myself for it a little bit more, but at the end of the day, it was a lot of fun. I'm glad I got to do it, and it was a really cool experience, man. And being in Cancun, playing in Cancun, baseball in Cancun wasn't a bad gig either.
No, I honestly. So you played for Acereros de Monclova. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, but the only reason I bring it up is because, and you've probably gathered this from following me on Twitter for some reason. I don't know why you do that, but I appreciate it. I love remembering some guys, and this team has so much bold ink. It's you, Eric Ibar, Chris Carter, the guy who mashed a whole bunch of homers, Michael Choice, Danny Espinoza, Joey Ricard, Shane Robinson, Addison Russell. I obviously know why people don't talk about him as much, but Dwight Smith Jr., Charlie Tilson, and that's just the hitters. The pitchers, Al Albuquerque, Jake Barrick, Bartolo Colon.
Baby.
Yeah, Ryan Garton, Braden Shipley, who's a prospect at one point, Alfredo Simon, Sammy Solis. I mean, there must be somewhere around 20 guys with bold ink. That, to me, when you talk about AAA being a little more fun than AAA, I feel like this melting pot of guys, because there's also a lot of countrymen too, that dynamic just had to be fascinating.
It was a lot of fun. Like we said, it was all about winning. And the competition, you look at it, a couple years ago, before they made all the minor league changes with cutting teams, rosters, organizations are smaller because there's less teams.
Yep.
These leagues weren't as good. Like, they weren't as competitive. Now they're super competitive. It was the talent was way better than I thought. Even from the countrymen there, they were very good. But our roster was really good. Tijuana was really good. Monterey wasn't very good that year, but they had some dudes on their team. There were some very, very good quality, professionals down there, and it was a lot of fun. I would not mind if I had to do more of it. Honestly, I'm not going to play now, but I had, if I was still up playing, I would definitely wouldn't mind doing it again. It was so much fun.
Well, and you played for Pat Lishdash, the 1993 AL Rookie of the Year. So that just speaks to me because I was a little kid when all that was going on. So I love remembering some guys, as again, I'm sure you've seen on Twitter. Before we move on to our next segment, we'll talk about summer camp. What do you envision, or what is like your goal with this instruction? Would you like to have a job in the big league someday, in the minor league someday? Are you happy where you're at, kind of like in one place, and the instruction comes to you?
I'm happy where I'm at. My current cage is right across the street from my driveway. It's right across my driveway. It's at my house. Everyone comes to me. I enjoy it. I've had a few minor league offers to start getting into that. I'm not interested in it at all.
Could that change? Pretty unlikely.
Maybe as my daughter gets older, and but right now, no. I won't do anything. I won't do anything like that. So time consuming.
Yeah.
And it was gone 12 years already. So it's maybe when I'm older, but for now, definitely not. I love being at home. I love playing in my men's basketball leagues in the summers and weekends. I get to see my family, get to go to my nieces and nephews' birthdays that I never get to go to. So I'm getting to enjoy all of that now. So I definitely enjoy being at home. I would kind of just like to keep growing clientele, eventually get a bigger building and all that stuff, bigger batting cage, and just kind of this, but just on a bigger scale.
Sure, that makes sense. quickly, 1 year ago today, Twins lose to the Astros 6-3, fall to 62 and 61. Wraps up a 6-game losing streak. And again, we're going to remember some guys. The Astros pitched Luis Garcia, Will Smith, who Ryan Jeffers homered off on last night to give the Twins a win. But on the other side, Chris Archer goes 4 innings. Joan Duran pitches the 5th. Jorge Lopez in there. Trevor McGill, who's now with the Brewers. I just like remembering some names here. And so this, to me, is a lot of fun. Luis Ariz DHing at the top. But Christian Vasquez, also current Twin, batting 5th for the Astros. Now, as we move into our second segment, we do have to talk about our friends over at Sleeper. Sleeper is a new sponsor of ours. And if you want a chance to win more money with fewer picks, head to Sleeper, which is the #1 sports app where you can win up to 100 times your money on just 2 or more fantasy baseball picks. So if you think a player like Lane Adams is going to hit a homer tonight, you can put your money where your mouth is, say over 0, and you get 1 homer, and you can use different statistics, different players, kind of bunch it all together and win big time money. If you get your picks right, you can win big. It's home runs, strikeouts, hits, that sort of thing, and dynamic payouts. So basically each player projection has a multiplier attached to it. And instead of a preset multiplier, so it's all based on legs in your contest. And so there's more categories to bet on, et cetera, et cetera. Again, you can get higher payouts with less picks. So use the promo code LOCKEDON. You'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 30 states. So run on over to the Sleeper app and see if you are in one of those 30 states, or just sit tight and they'll get to you. All right, Lane. So it's funny to me, I guess before that, Twins Rangers tonight, 7:10 p.m. Dane Dunning, Sonny Gray. Catch every pitch of Twins Hometown broadcast with Sirius XM on the SXM app. Just search Twins. Also, thanks for making us your first listen every day. In addition to talking to Lane here, we are going to be talking to Pat Light here coming up. Carson McCusker, who is a Twins hitting prospect. We'll get him next week. Got a lot of fun stuff lined up, so thanks for hanging out with us. Lane, when I see your picture on Baseball Reference, you have a Twins hat on, and I feel like in some respects, people who look back on 2020, who don't understand what all happened that year, will be like, why is he wearing a Twins hat? He doesn't have any stats with the Twins or their minors. Well, 2020 is why. When you signed with the Twins, I assume you had no idea what was coming ahead for the year to come.
No, zero.
So you're signing with the Twins. What made you pick the Twins? Because you've been a few different places. We know what differentiates for free agents at the big league level, minor league level is a little different. Was it more an opportunity, facilities? What made you hone in on Minnesota as, hey, this is an opportunity?
Brandon was the only damn offer I had, dude.
For real?
Wow. It was the only one I had. My 2019 it started off really well in Lehigh Valley. I got to the best start of my career, and then opted out of that contract. Was at home for 3 weeks. Went to Double A. I think I went 0 for 36. I went 2. I went 2 for the whole 3 weeks I was in Double A with Atlanta, and that was bad. So ended up signing a minor league deal with the Twins, man, and I was very fortunate I did. I didn't play, it was COVID, but I was really happy that I was with Minnesota during all of that.
Well, and so you would have originally been ticketed for, it was Rochester, right? I mean, they weren't St. Paul yet.
Yeah, I think it was still Rochester.
Yeah, they hadn't changed to St. Paul because St. Paul needed to be, since it was an indie league, they actually needed all that compression that Manfred did that you and I both disagree with, but they needed some of the affiliates to move around, and so that enabled that. But anyway, you go from, hey, I might live in Minneapolis or I might live in Rochester to, hey, bud, you're going to St. Paul. When COVID first hits, I assume you're kind of like, okay, well, I'm going to be going to the minors, but I'm kind of waiting to see what happens. When they canceled the minor league season, what's your mind frame? Are you just again, understanding why it had to happen, but I'm sure you got to be kind of well, now what am I going to do?
Yeah, for sure. I was at that point. The writing's on the wall. I knew my end was up very, very soon. Like I knew I wasn't going to play much longer. I was going to give that one last. I think 2020 was it was going to be the last run for me. Is I going to do really well and keep it's going to be boomer bust. If I have an average to anywhere to average down near, done.
Mm-hmm.
If I can somehow crack myself in the big leagues, I'll keep playing. But it was that was my mindset. And then I didn't get invited to Major League camp that year. So it's like, all right, COVID happened, minor league's over. I was already kind of looking on to. I was starting to OK swings. That's when I started reaching out, working with some hitters locally. But yeah, it was. I was not expecting. I knew they were going to do. They were kind of telling us, hey, they're going to do a camp type thing, a COVID, like kind of the taxi squad type thing. I was like, well, I wasn't in Major League camp. I highly doubt I'm going to be in that. So I wasn't really. Brandon, I wasn't training. It wasn't working out. I was playing in a summer basketball league in Oklahoma. That was about all the conditioning I was doing. And then I got a phone call and I was invited to camp. I was very excited. It's like, well, this is going to be cool. I mean, just to be a part of this type of history. So I was very excited and just went and tried to make the best out of it.
So I suppose a big reason why you would have been a draw for them there is because you had big league time. And so the fact that you could marinate in St. Paul, but then, if they needed someone in Minneapolis, they could bring over someone who's actually played in the big leagues before.
Yeah, I think that was their understanding. That's what they told me. It's like, you've been there, you've done it. It's not, you're a safety net in a sense, which Good. I'll take it.
What were the, so you find out you're going, what's your reaction? And then do you just get to St. Paul and they have accommodations for you, or what is it?
Yeah. So I was at home. I was not expecting to go. I get a phone call from my agent, say, you're going to the camp. I was like, oh, hell yeah. So I get up there. I think I leave the next day or 2 days after. I go to St. Paul. They have a hotel room. We're at the Hyatt in St. Paul, which is down the street from the stadium.
CHS, yep.
So we can walk to it. And then we kind of the first week or 2 weeks, we were kind of going to Target to have practice, take BP, and we do simulated games, all that stuff. So we're kind of just going back and forth there. And then when the season started, we stayed in St. Paul. But no, the Twins are very, very, very accommodating, man. I don't see how any organization handled that whole situation better than Minnesota did. I mean, as far as accommodating players, making sure players are taken care of, as far as nutrition, everything. I mean, I just don't see how another organization could do it better than how Minnesota did.
So from someone who's played for multiple organizations, though, how much variance is there on the minor league level? And then to major league level, because, I mean, you did have big league time with multiple teams. Is there that much variance? Because, I saw, I think it was CJ Wilson tweeting about how, pun intended, Mickey Mouse, the setup was for Angels players back in the day at spring training. Is there that much variance between organizations?
Absolutely. And I've been fortunate enough that I was in some organizations that took really good care of their players. So there was one organization that I didn't really like that much. But most of them.
So it wasn't Minnesota, though. It wasn't Minnesota.
No, it wasn't. Minnesota's the top of the line. Minnesota, Kansas City, Cubs, Phillies, great organization as far as taking care of their guys. Really good at that end. It was there's differences for sure. There's just how people go about things, communications, everything. I mean, there's adjustments to be made.
Sure,
each team does things differently, but it's overall there's some teams that have will want to take care of you and because you're there, you're on their squad. The other team's you're not a dude for us. You're not a guy for us. So it's there's some of that too, unfortunately. And I didn't spend a lot of time in those organizations.
I've always felt while it doesn't make sense to treat humans like that, I feel like their justification is this system is only ever going to create 26 big leaguers at any given time. So it's on them to fight. It's on them to provide. We'll take the 26 best or the 26 who are the best fit at this point. Now, again, that's a terrible way to look at human beings, but is your sense maybe that, listen, it's up to you to work for it. We'll take the best of you. But there's teams that obviously don't, feed players as well, have adequate housing, that sort of thing. What's the justification from the team side? Because that's all I could ever imagine is, listen, if we treat these guys like princes, we're still only going to have 26 big leaguers at any given time.
I think it's a lot of that old school.
Toughen up.
Get it out the mud. Yeah, toughen up.
Bootstraps.
No pressure, no diamonds type of bullshit.
Yeah. She gone.
But it's, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And then it's the minor leagues. There's some of that no matter where you're at. There's some, nights you're on a bus trip for 12 hours and, you're on the road playing in Rochester and the visiting club, he doesn't have breakfast for you for an 11 o'clock game, Brandon.
Jeez.
So there's some of that toughen up stuff.
Yeah.
But overall, like the teams I was with, they had their best interests. They want to take care of you. They want to make sure like you're comfortable. They want to make sure all the stresses outside of the stadium were met, so you can focus on being the best. You're the best player you could be in the working hours.
You probably were there when some vets would roll through with like the where they provide on their rehab. They give you guys a better meal. Was that the case at any point in your career? Sorry, I'm getting a call from the boss. Was that a case where a player would come in from rehab and set you guys up with food? Like, did you ever deal with that?
Oh yeah, Chris Medlin one time. I mean, we had it all the time. Not all.
But I mean, I want to ask though. It's kind of treated as a heartwarming story. Is it weird or is it kind of cool?
Oh, it's cool. We love it. Because we're like, I remember the first time I was in Arizona League. I'm like a week into my professional career, and it's 118 degrees in Arizona, and we're all sitting there, and Alex Gordon just gives us there's like 40 kids there. He buys all of us just like Route 44 slushes from Sonic. We're like, what? This is amazing. This is awesome. And then Chris Medlin, he had a 5-star steakhouse come serve filet and lobster to us in the visiting clubhouse in Springfield, Missouri. And he brought in servers. Most times they just bring food. He brought in servers. They're bringing like napkins and you put it in your lap as you sit in your chair at your locker. It was awesome.
That's awesome. I wondered if that was heartwarming or if it was weird. So I'm glad that it's like that. Awesome. That just came in my brain at the random second. Anyway, so your daily routine with summer camp. You said you guys stayed pretty close, so you could walk back and forth. I know there were, restrictions on who could and couldn't be certain places. And what would a typical day? Let's just say like the most typical day right in the middle of it. So you're not preparing for the start or the end. You're just going through a regular day.
Regular day. We get up pretty early because we were only allowed 4 hours at the stadium. So it was either 7 to 11 or 8 to noon, but the Saints were still playing that year. So we had to be out we couldn't be there past, I think it was noon. I think it was 8 to noon. So we get 4 hours. So you get up, our nutritionist Rasa had, money, food for us ready every morning. Whatever we needed from that on our floor in a conference room on our hotel floor, not even in the hotel, on the floor. We get there, we go down. We have like, you do everything like groups of 3 or 4, like small groups and limit the space. So one group's you're never around the same group. One group's either outside hitting, one group's in the cage hitting, one group's doing defense. So it's like, you're never really around. Pitchers are kind of on their own program. So we do that. We do our BP, we hit, we do our defense, and then we play a quick simulated game. And we only had a certain amount of players. So we had, I remember one time we had like 2 or 3 coaches out there playing, 30 ones. I remember playing center field, and I had 2 coaches playing corner outfield with me.
Wow.
And they didn't give a lot of hustle on the balls in the gap that were hit that day.
No, you were Buxton that day.
Yeah. So it was really wild, but it was very like I said, we made do with what we did. We knocked that out. Pitchers can only throw so much.
Right.
Not only, I mean, they could throw more, but in the case that if someone went down up top, like we had to have a fresh arm, so we couldn't guys couldn't throw and be on the shelf for 4 days just in case something that happened. So it kind of switched everything up. We're trying to get hitters live at bats, trying to get pitchers innings and pitches without long durations. So we only play 5-inning inter squad games. Then we'd call it a day. We would if you had a lift that day after, you'd work out, and then you just go back to your hotel room and we'd hang out until the next morning.
Wow, that just to me that seems crazy. So let's assume the Braves or whoever's going to call you up, and you're playing down at Gwinnett, and you're doing your thing. Now, fast forward to 2020, and the Twins call you up from St. Paul. What's the difference in terms of how ready you feel based on what you've been doing? In the International League, you're playing games. At St. Paul, you're playing inter-squad games and doing it. Do you feel like you would have still been as adequately prepared if you were playing regular games? You probably haven't thought of that, right?
I haven't even thought of that, really, honestly.
Yeah.
As an athlete, as a competitor, you think you're always ready. But looking back at it, there's probably going to be a little bit of not really that, as much as you don't want to admit it. You're probably not as sharp as you are playing. No,
would you say 75%, 80%?
I would say, you're probably 75, 80% where you want to. I mean, then again, I faced Johan Duran every other freaking day. So
right.
You face that guy,
Yep.
You don't feel as sharp.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very good question. I didn't really thought of that. But yeah, I think because you're not traveling, so you got to deal with you're not used to traveling. You start traveling again.
Yeah.
And in the regular season, you're used to the travel, and then you get called up. The travel's better, so it makes the game a little easier and all that stuff. Right now, you're just kind of going in and out hotel room 4 hours a day. Your days are short. You're not used to those long 7, 8 hour, 8, 9, 10 hour days that you're not doing those there. So you're probably not as sharp and pristine as you probably would be if you're just doing a regular season.
Were you glad to not have to go back to that for another minor league season? Let's say 2021, the A's call up and you sign with them. Were you glad to not have to do that grind again, or was 2020 the way that was? Okay, this can be it. I'm okay with that.
If I was younger, I would not want to do it again. But I was older, Brandon, and I enjoyed just getting paid for doing 4 hours of work a day. I'm not gonna lie. They're pretty much paying me to sit in a hotel room and play the show.
Yeah.
And work out and hit.
So who did you?
I loved it. I was like, dude, where I'm at in my career, this is awesome. This is getting paid. This is great. But if I'm younger, definitely. It's a grind. It was. I probably enjoyed it more than everyone else, just because. Yeah. I'm at that age where my body's a little sore. I can't just roll out of bed and play anymore. Yeah. No, it's not. It was something I was very, very glad I got to experience and just to be a part of it. But it's not something that just I can't wait to do it again type thing.
Right. Who are your guys on the team? Who did you spend time with?
Rooker was there. Rooker, Blankenhorn, Xander Wheel.
Yep.
Jack Reinheimer. Trying to think of the pitchers.
Yeah, who would the pitchers have been? I'm trying to think because
it was.
It wasn't that long ago, and at the same time.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I was at spring training for a week before I went home, so I didn't really meet everybody. Everyone else is still in major league camp, so I didn't really get to meet all of them. Danny
Coulomb.
I can never say. Still can't pronounce.
He's on the Orioles. Yep.
Juan Gratterall. I played with him.
The catcher.
Yeah, so it was a good group. The guys were awesome. The coaching staff was cool.
Yeah.
It was a great. Everyone was cool, man. It was awesome. We just kind of just hang out and chill. They didn't really want us going to each other's hotel rooms, but we did.
Yeah.
But we're all on the same floor. We all
we practice together anyway.
Yeah, we made sure we kind of abided by the protocols because you didn't want to test positive. You test positive, they stick you in that room 14 days. I mean, one of my locker mates, Tovar, I think he had
Yep.
a positive test, I think. And he didn't see him for 14 days. And he's just sitting in there. I was like, that's something. So everyone took like the protocol seriously. One, because if you're on the list, you don't have any chance to get called up. And two, you don't want to sit in your hotel room for 14 days. It's hard enough doing it for 20 hours a day.
Yeah.
You don't want to do it for 14 straight days. It was brutal.
For real.
Don't miss that side of it. But like I said, as bad as kind of as hectic as 2020 was, I was very fortunate to be with Minnesota.
What type of player? Are we still doing okay on time? I feel like I'm going over.
Oh, you're good, man.
Okay.
You're good.
What kind of player do you think? I don't want to say benefited the most because the minor league season being canceled didn't benefit any player specifically. But what type of player probably had the least drawbacks? I'm thinking like, your double-A hitter who's mostly big league ready, or, like an Alex Kirilloff probably had not that much of a drawback. But then again, you look at Royce Lewis, who had a couple ACLs and injuries, and he's toolsy. He's got a lot of moving parts in his swing. I look at the Twins, quote-unquote, pitching pipeline, which, that year, then you got guys like Enlow getting hurt. That really screwed up their pitching plan. What do you think it did to development, and were there some players that were more fortunate than others?
Yeah, I think for me personally, there was stuff I was working on with my swing that I was like, all right, I can actually work on stuff here. Like, I don't care. There's no stats to keep, so I was actually working on stuff. There's a lot of guys doing that. I think Duran saw a lot of benefit from it. Like, he being able to not worried about, he's got that just freaking some splinkers, everyone calls it. Like, him able to really get control of that and get a feel for that. He threw it a lot, like in our games. It's like, because he would throw it so much it just run out of the zone. I think during that time he was able to kind of slow himself down, kind of just work on getting a feel for certain pitches. I think he took a big jump. He took a big jump like in the middle of that summer.
Well, if you walk 20 guys in a row with a splinker, that growth you've made on your splinker doesn't show up in the stat line as walks per 9 innings or anything.
Right. I think pitching. Royce Lewis, obviously you want that kid playing in games, but him coming down, he got to face Pineda came in through live to us. A couple of the big league guys came in through live to us. Like, I think getting guys like Jeffers, Kirilloff, Lewis, and Rooker, like those type of at-bats off of those type of guys, I think that benefited a lot. I also think that it benefited those guys mentally because they're right there. Like, if Minnesota, if something bizarre happens on the major league squad, like, they're right there. Like, there's no other options. Like, there's only a handful of guys you can pick. So I think it kind of like locked those guys in, which makes sense because those guys were banging in that camp. Like, I mean, I haven't seen a bunch like Larnach, Rooker, Jeffers, Kirilloff, Lewis. Those guys were just, that was about as talented group of young players I've ever been around.
That's why I'm so enthused about the team, even though they're not playing crazy good baseball right now, because Lewis is still working his way back from stuff. Kirilloff's out right now. Jeffers is not quite playing every day. Had that huge homer though off Smith last night, like I said. I still believe in this offensive core, which has been up and down this year. Where does Juan Duran rank on the nastiest pitchers you've ever stood in against? He's up there, I'm sure.
He's got to be. He's up there for sure. And he wasn't as nasty as he is now. Yeah, like, he was good, but he didn't have a great feel for the sinker yet. It was nasty, but it's like you could kind of eliminate some pitches. Now he's got command of it. He's kind of throwing it both quadrant sides of the plate. It's like, all right, this guy, and it's hard. It's firm. Right. But he's up there. He was a pain in the ass to face in 2020. I can imagine he's more of a pain in the ass now.
Well, he's only gotten better. Is there anything you feel like I didn't bring up that was really unique about the 2020? Because obviously from your end, you've seen a lot more. For us as fans and as people who consume the game, we don't know. Is that a lot different than a minor league season, a little different than a minor league season? Is it unlike anything you've ever done? Could you see that working in a different scenario? Like, From that 2020 season, what did you take away?
I took away how fortunate I am personally that I even got that. Like when I was very fortunate. There's a lot of guys who didn't go to camp who were really good players. I think it's it makes you appreciate kind of the competitive nature of it. Now you're playing inter squad games. Now you're competing, but it's like there's nothing to win. So that kind of like stinks. There's no like, and inter squad games are different. Like you're on a different team. Like there's only so many of us. Like you're on a different group of dudes every time. So there's no like team. All of us aren't trying to go. We're all trying to beat each other. We're all like boys, but it's a little different when you're like a squad trying to go beat another squad as opposed to just beating up on yourselves. So you kind of miss the you get to where you miss like the competitive nature of like going to competing with your dudes. That's you start to miss that quick, like pretty early on. It gets a little monotonous, kind of do the inter squad stuff.
Is it like spring training goes? Is it like spring training goes on too long almost, or?
Yeah, it's like an adult. It's like in a freaking veteran extended, in a sense. It's like extended spring training for veterans.
Veteran daycare. Yeah,
exactly. But it's cool, man. It was as much as it was different. There was a lot of cool stuff to it. I enjoyed it probably more than a lot of guys did because it's just where I was at in my career. I was just thankful to be there, and I just,
So when you look back on your career, I'll end with this. I see your numbers and I'm like, man, why didn't a guy like this get more chances? And I know you baseball is a tricky thing where you're wrong place, wrong time, and that sort of thing. But offensively, your numbers solid, and obviously not a big sample. What does it mean to you to have been in the big leagues? And do you ever think, yeah, I would have liked it to be more, or yeah, I'm happy with how it went, or kind of how do you reflect on that?
Obviously, I wish I could have played longer or more time up there. I think, like you said, it's you right place, right time. There's as easy as it was for me to get 3 years. It could have been just as easy for me not to get 3 years, or me to get 5 years. It's a lot of that goes into it. I'm happy with it. There's things I wish I could do differently as far as like my swing and stuff that I started messing around with. There's some things, but those are all learning experiences that I now get to kind of navigate my hitters I work with now through. So I don't think I'm as good I feel like I'm a good teacher and instructor at hitting now because of some of the stuff I went through as a player. But obviously I wish I could have played a little bit longer, but at the same time, I'm very fortunate for what I was able to accomplish. Cause in 2016, I got released by the Yankees out of Double-A. I was kind of like, man, what am I going to do now? I had 3 at bats in Kansas City and 14 at that time. So, to say I was going to collect another, 2 years, and make an opening day roster and be on a playoff roster, I was like, wow, that's a lot compared to where I was in 2016. So I'm very happy with it. I don't have any regrets on anything I did. Yeah, man, I'm fortunate enough. I was healthy my whole career. And,
not many people say that.
That I'm thankful for. I don't, if I need to go play baseball right now, I could. Like, guys, the body doesn't hold up for them. Like I'm just physically very fit and active. I can still run and stuff. So, body's not banged up. I can play with my kid, play with my cousins, nappies and all that stuff. So, all in all, man, I'm very fortunate. Very fortunate.
I do have one little quiz question for you. You were taken in the 13th round of the 2009 draft. 3 players from that draft played in the big leagues and have a positive WAR, according to Baseball Reference. You are in the middle of those 2 players. Do you know who the other 2 are?
From Kansas City or the whole thing?
The whole thing, 13th round, that draft.
13th round.
So one guy's still
Matt Carpenter. Matt Carpenter.
28.6. He kind of takes it home. But see if you can figure out your 0.6. There was a guy who was 0.5 who was taken 6 picks ahead of you.
What team?
I know him best from the Mets. He was drafted by the Orioles.
Oh, hell, I have no idea.
This is some immaculate grid. Did you ever watch the video where Noah Syndergaard got thrown out and the umpire said his ASS is
Kelly?
Ty Kelly, yes.
Kelly. All right.
Ty Kelly's in that video. He's in that video. Obviously, he doesn't say much, but
I respect Ty Kelly's grind, man.
Exactly.
His grind.
He was just playing last year, didn't the Mariners sign him or something?
I'm gonna turn on TV. I want to see him on a freaking. I'm gonna see him somewhere. He just pops up. But I respect the grind. He's like Phil Gosselin.
Yep.
This guy rakes everywhere he goes. He just, I respect those guys, man. It's hard.
Listen,
to do.
Lane, thank you so much for your time. If people want to follow you on Twitter, and they should, at LA_Swiftness, I tell people they shouldn't follow me, but they should definitely follow you. They should also follow at Locked On Twins. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. Check back. We'll have some weekend coverage. Twins Rangers. It's this Rangers team is pretty dang good, Lane. That West is going to be a good fight. The Central, I think, is over, but the West is going to be won by someone, and I don't know who that is. But subscribe, like, give us a 5-star rating on wherever you're watching or listening. YouTube, give us that subscribe and thumbs up. Otherwise, this is Brendan Warren signing off, saying thank you so much and have a freaking week.